Hey, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and
Hi, Peter Franson.
Spirit Blade Productions. Sitting here with my son, Asher. We sat down over the Christmas vacation because he asked me to rank all of the main Star Wars movies in the order from like least to greatest or something like that. That was just a relaxed conversation. I didn't feel like turning on the lights and stuff like that, so we don't have video of that. We just have audio of that, but I at least wanted to have Asher come on here so you could see him. In one word, how would you rank, or how would you describe, like, your opinion of my ranking of the main episodic Star Wars movies?
No!
Okay, all right, so here's that conversation now. Okay, so I'm sitting here with my son.
Hello.
Asher Franson, our oldest, who is 16. And this started as a conversation at the dinner table. And then I don't know if it was you that said something or me that it was just like, we should talk about this on my podcast. It was me, okay. So we stopped the conversation there and we walked into my office. My wife is going to be home in a little while, maybe in about 25, 30 minutes. So we may have to take an edit break or stop or whatever. But the conversation topic, Asher asked me a question. Asher, why don't you ask that question again and then we'll take it from the top.
All right. So there are 9 main episodes of Star Wars, from The Phantom Menace to The Rise of Skywalker. My question was, and still is, how would you rank them, each of those 9 episodes, from worst to best, and why?
And there was also at some point in this conversation the idea proposed by him that, like, while we're on break, we should watch all 9 movies. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm already planning on watching all the Christopher Reeve Superman movies and some other stuff on the break. But if we watch them all with riff tracks, then I would agree to that. So that is kind of...
We could do it with riff tracks.
Yeah, that is kind of the plan at this point. Anyway, and I, in my mind, interpreted this question as worst to best in terms of what Star Wars movies... How would I feel about sitting down to watch them right now? Not their relevance to film history, and all that kind of stuff. Not how I felt about them when I first watched them. None of that. It's which ones would I least like to sit down and watch right today, and which would I most like to sit down and watch today. Now, I really don't want to watch any of them today. I'm fine. I've moved on, and there's just other stuff in life to enjoy. But here we go.
Here's the thing. One question. Wouldn't that make it an unfair ranking, since what you want to watch today could change tomorrow and any other day of the week?
Yes. So this list could be different a week from now.
Okay.
And you're just going to have to live with that.
All right. All right. Listen up, everybody. My dad's opinion is completely randomized every day of the week, so this is not... You should not rely on this at all.
That's correct. Yes, I would say that of all of my opinions. Okay, so number 9. What did I say was number 9? Oh, yeah, Phantom Menace.
Yeah, Phantom Menace.
Yeah, mostly because of Jar Jar and the Gungans, and just in general, the kind of lightness of it.
I understand Jar Jar. Jar Jar has no reason to exist, except for when he takes... Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan down to the underwater city or whatever that place was.
Yeah.
But he has no reason to exist besides that.
He's like all the Ewoks got combined into a hive mind and stuffed into a single body.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about it later, but I don't understand. I'll say this, I haven't watched I haven't watched Return of the Jedi in a while, but I don't understand what your problem is with the Ewoks.
Okay, we'll come to that.
We'll get to that later. Yeah, Jar Jar I understand. But another reason you pointed out was the kid hero in the form of Anakin Skywalker.
That's right.
And I said, Anakin, he's like a supporting role. He's not even the main character. Yes,
but enough attention is given to him, and the plot just hinges on him so much. I'm just like, if they're not Dakota Fanning, and I mean, he's not bad for a child actor. He's very standard for a child actor. But I don't like child actors. They're not convincing to me, and I especially don't like child characters being empowered, which he certainly is. So I just, if you're not Dakota Fanning, I don't have time for you. I know, that's terrible. But the saving grace, as it were, of that movie is Darth Maul.
Darth Maul is probably the best part. And the thing that I'm probably the most surprised about that you're ranking this last is because I've seen on YouTube, and people, including me, have been saying that the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul at the end of the movie is arguably one of the best duels in all of Star Wars. So
yeah, I think I might agree with that.
But I'm just kind of blown away by why you would want to rank this last.
Because there's so much to sit through to get to that duel.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Anyway, so that's my number 9. 8, I said, was...
No, this is going to blow your minds, people. I can't...
Oh, yeah.
This.
A New Hope, episode 4. Never...
We have to think of a title for this right now. We're going to sit through my terrible ranking of the Star Wars movies.
Right. Yeah.
That you're not going to agree with.
Yeah, that's fine. If you don't want to sit through this, that's fine. I don't want to sit through episode 4, probably ever again in my life. Well, we're going to do it with Riff Tracks. That'll help.
Yeah,
but never has... I said this at the dinner table. I said it weirdly. Let me try and rephrase it better. Never has it more been truly spoken in cinema. Never has a word more truly been spoken in cinema than when Darth Vader says to Obi-Wan Kenobi, "Your powers are weak, old man." Because his powers are weak. Both of their powers are weak. That lightsaber duel is pathetic.
That is understandable. But you have to remember, this was made in 1977.
No, I don't. Remember what I said at the beginning? My ranking is not based on what they achieved at the time and what it means for film history. Now, if we were ranking these on those, I think the first Star Wars would probably be number 1. It'd be my favorite of all of them. I have Star Wars Episode 1 to thank for Farscape. If there was no Episode 4. If there were no A New Hope, there would be no Farscape. And so it is huge in the world of cinema. And I honor and respect the world of the work of all involved for that. But do I want to sit down and watch Episode 4? No.
Wow, okay. Straight up.
Straight up, yeah. And we haven't even talked about, what version of these movies are we talking about? You're probably talking about the special editions, not the one that actually released in 1970 blah, whatever, 77.
I have no idea what version I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't
know what the versions are.
I don't think, you haven't seen actually the 1977 version because Disney, for whatever reason, doesn't make it available. I think that is their emergency release valve. When Marvel finally tanks them and they have lost so much money, they're going to say, we are releasing the pristine, unaltered versions of the original Star Wars movies, which have never been released on high definition before. I think that is their moneymaker, that they're just waiting, that's the break glass in case of emergency weapon that they have, Anyway, so, yeah. Anything more we need to say or cover about A New Hope? But I wanted to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
What?
I wanted to go to Tashi Station and pick up some power converters. Ugh, I always wanted that line. That's a Luke line.
I was thinking maybe that would be some sort of Luke line at the beginning of the movie or something.
I want someone on YouTube, someone's probably done this. I want someone to intercut that line and then immediately cut to him getting zapped by the Emperor. Where he's just screaming in pain. Because I just so want him to be zapped right at that moment.
Why?
Because I want to pick up some... What is it? I want to go to Tashi Station and pick up some power keys. He's such a whiner. I'm just like, oh my gosh. I can't handle it. Okay.
I don't understand you. I'm never going to understand you.
That's okay. So that's episode 4. That's my number
8.
Okay, so number 7. Do you remember what I said was my number 7?
I think you said Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones.
And that for me, from now that I'm thinking about it, is a little bit more reasonable, I think. I'll let you say why.
Well,
Still don't agree with it that much, but...
We're still retreading dinner table conversation. This might be the last one. And then we'll get into fresh stuff that we haven't interacted about yet.
This is the last one.
The acting felt wooden between Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman, whether they were together or separate, but, I wasn't buying into the romance. These are not new ideas. I'm not the first person to share these. I'm the last person to share these thoughts. Many people have said this. But it just feels kind of wooden, and especially in the case of Natalie Portman, I know that she's capable of so much more because I've seen her do so much more in other movies. And so, I just wasn't buying the relationship. I wasn't buying the romance. I wasn't buying the Hayden Christensen interpretation of Vader. It's hard for me to get from who he is as Anakin to who Vader becomes. It's really hard for me to get there. And, there's lots of CG of questionable value. But...
Hey, Yoda's good, though.
Yes, and that's the but. Is like, we saw Yoda kick butt like never before.
First time, it was the debut of Yoda with a lightsaber.
Yeah, and like, what a debut. I mean, wow. That was... I remember when I eventually got that on DVD... we've got them all on Blu-ray now, I think. Do we have all of them on Blu-ray?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe.
Anyway.
I think it's still on DVD. I think we still have it on DVD.
When I first got it on DVD, I remember I watched that scene over and over again. I mean, it was just like, that was great. It was shorter than the Darth Maul fight, but it was like to episode 2 what Darth Maul was to episode 1. It's like, it's what you watch the movie for, Mm-hmm. You sit through everything else to get to that. That's what makes it worth sitting down to watch it,
Yeah.
And so that was fantastic, and there was some decent action and stuff in other parts. It wasn't, it's not like this offensively irritating movie or anything like that. I'm just like really disconnected from the performances of those two actors.
It's still recording when your monitor's off.
Yeah, it just goes to rest mode, but it's still recording. Okay, so that's my number 987.
7.
So now we're getting number... So, we did talk about 6.
We talked about it briefly.
Briefly, okay. This is where we stop the conversation. That's right. Yeah. So my number 6 is episode 6, and that's Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, that I'm not sure about. Not so sure.
Yeah, well...
I might have words to say.
Here's what I felt it had going for it, and this was made it so hard. These really are difficult choices to rank these. I don't normally do this anyway.
You got to do this more often, just to slowly kill yourself.
I guess, yeah, it might.
If you're really going to rank these badly, then at least do it multiple times so that one day you eventually die a horrible, painful death.
From people, like, hating me so much that they didn't come and kill me?
Yeah, okay. Sure.
Or just the agonizing experience of doing it.
Can I be in that mob?
Please, no. Okay, so... do you remember when you killed me in that little, when you were a little kid and you recorded the horror movie intro?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
for the record, I still think you should say Star Trek is your favorite, because I don't know where Farscape came from. No one's talking about Farscape except for James Gunn.
Oh, is James Gunn talking about it? Good for him.
James Gunn, you told me James Gunn talked about it once.
Yes, yeah. And he's clearly a fan because he cast Ben Browder. But we're getting off track here.
But no one is talking about Farscape.
Don't say no one, Mr. Hyperbole.
No one.
Okay, no one in your little group.
No one, period.
Okay, get on YouTube and just type Farscape. It'll open up a world to you. Okay, so.
I hear more people talk about the other stuff a lot more.
Well, there's another fallacy. Even if no one's talking about it, doesn't mean it's not awesome.
Hey,
if no one in the world believes something that's true, that thing is still true, and everyone else is wrong.
Question, does Farscape have a modern thing?
A modern thing? What are you talking about?
A modern TV show or anything? Because Star Trek got a modern TV show.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh. Okay, that just means it's popular. But so is a whole lot of crap that appeals to the worst part of humanity. Okay, so
No.
were
Jane, put in
we gotta get back to
parentheses.
Star Wars.
Okay, yeah, but put in parentheses for the title. I roast Asher roasts me as well. No,
I guess, yeah.
yeah.
All right, so
So I bet people will want to hear that, especially people in the mob.
Jedi, Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi is
So
number
here's
six.
here's what made it difficult to rank it this deep instead of higher up on the list. The fight between Luke and Darth Vader at the end of that movie is great. And I'm not talking even necessarily about the action, although the action was great because it was so emotionally motivated. It's not that it was the most cool, choreographed lightsaber duel in all the movies. Definitely not. But there is anger and passion and grief in the swings of Luke's lightsaber when Vader baits him by kind of threatening to go after Leia. I mean, there's just it's the culmination of Luke developing his relationship with his sister after discovering that they're siblings, and the culmination of his tension that he's feeling with his father, who he's, just discovered. I mean, there's so much great drama in that final fight. It's great. It's fantastic. I think that I've been surprised coming back to that movie after years. It's still kind of welling up a little bit and getting watery-eyed in that last fight, Mm-hmm. But there are so many Ewoks. There are so many Ewoks in that movie.
And again, I haven't watched it in a while, so I don't know what I'm saying. I hear people talk about Jar Jar. I hear no one having a problem with the Ewoks.
I know. Yes. I'm not making the popular choices here.
Yeah, I know, but again, what's wrong with the Ewoks?
I find them to be cute to the point of trivializing the stakes. Now, it's true that one or two Ewoks do get killed. Like one Ewok gets killed and his buddy shakes him and then realizes, oh, he's not moving. And so there's this sad kind of moment. But it's not... They're just kind of largely one-note, cutesy, furry creatures. They're not capable of really articulated facial expressions, and so it's hard to invest in them in persons. They almost feel more like pets, a bit like how the droids feel. They feel a little bit more like cute pets that we want to protect and that we do value in some way, but we don't quite see them as persons,
Persons?
Yeah.
Persons?
Yes.
What's a persons?
It's the plural of person.
No, people is the plural of persons.
I think you can still say persons. We can look it up sometime. I could be wrong. Anyway.
I'm never gonna say persons except when I mock you.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking more philosophically. I don't think, we think of them as having the quality of personhood.
Persons.
Yeah, we'll talk sometime. Okay. So anyway,
personhood.
Yeah, I'm getting a little deep in the weeds philosophically, and that's okay. We don't, I understand that's going to sound weird. So yeah, I'm just not into the cutesy, fluffy stuff, and what it tends to do to the stakes. I want the stakes to remain heavy. I don't want comedy to lighten the mood. I want to feel the stakes more and more and more, especially when this is the third part at the time of a trilogy. So, yeah, I guess that's probably all that I have to say. I'm also not a big fan of Lando Calrissian. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Lando's not my favorite character either, but...
Okay.
I mean, again, I need to watch that original trilogy because I haven't watched it in a while, so...
Okay.
All right, so that was number 6. Now we are officially heading into new territory.
Yeah.
With number 5. So, what are you ranking it?
So, basically,
Oh, boy.
I have to put in this slot... Let's see. Have I mentioned any of 7, 8, and 9? I haven't.
You have not mentioned a single sequel.
Okay. I think the next one the one I was wrestling with between Return of the Jedi. That would be hard for me to sit down and watch again. I think it's 8. I think it's The Last
Last Jedi?
Yeah. I think it's The Last Jedi.
I'm disappointed. I'm not mad anymore. I'm just disappointed.
With me?
Yes. Because this is not a high this is not like a lower spot. This is not a lower spot on the list. It should be at the very at the very highest. It should be 7.
Yeah, well, I think that what it still has going for it is just some modern cinematography, modern visual effects, and it's it's got it's got some of those things going for it. Where it fails me and what I want as a fan is it seems to subvert expectations just for the sake of subverting them. Like I am like the story, the writing, the directing, it just seems to be like we know what you expect and we are going to deliberately swerve away from that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but what you choose to swerve toward needs to be an equally or more interesting choice. More compelling choice, more emotionally engaging choice, more, surprising or whatever. Well, surprising, not necessarily surprising. There was definitely surprises in that movie. I was like, these are bad surprises. I hate these surprises, So, the Luke drinking the milk stuff and the, we're getting into full spoilers here for the whole 9 movies, so you've been warned.
That's barely even a spoiler. That's part of a montage.
I'm prefacing what I'm about to say next. The fact that Luke dies at the end of that movie, and he dies. The way I so wanted his final thing as a Jedi to be more spectacular. What I had envisioned in my mind, and maybe this is unfair of me.
Okay.
What I had envisioned in my mind is that Luke had become so adept with the Force that he didn't even hold his lightsaber anymore. That like when he went to duel with somebody, he just controlled it by telekinesis and just like had it with his mind do all the fighting for him, spinning and flying around him and stuff while he just stands there. Now, why would this be cool? It'd be cool for 2 reasons, and it would work great for 2 reasons. One, Mark Hamill has not been, keeping in great shape his whole career. He's getting older as well. He wasn't known, apart from the Star Wars movies, for doing a lot of action. He did a lot of voice work and stuff, and so the actor should not have been expected to do a lot of great acrobatic stuff. And if you try to swap in a CG actor, for all those kinds of things, you're going to run into some problems there as well. And the Jedi, they're going for this kind of Zen Buddhism type still meditation vibe. That's where they're taking their inspiration. And so it would be very fitting to have him just quietly, as he was in that movie, at the end, just kind of like, I don't know, sitting in a cross-legged position and like thinking really hard. That's how he did what he did at the end of that movie. Well, have him sit and think really hard with his eyes closed or whatever, but instead of just being an illusion that doesn't really interact, have it be all about controlling his lightsaber and it just being like this spectacular thing, So I really wanted him to be this awesome wizard, basically, and he wasn't. And I felt like after all these years, bringing the original cast members back, I think I wanted to see them advance in some way in who they were. We saw that with Leia, arguably. She kind of got to advance in her use of the Force. Mm-hmm. And I think it would have been awesome to see Luke advance more fully and in a different way. For him to die at the end, I was just like, no, he's not. That's wasted.
I actually agree with you on this. I don't like Luke in The Last Jedi because he was wasted potential.
Yeah.
He could have just, even if he doesn't do all that wizard stuff, him just being there would have been so much better than just casting a projection.
Yeah.
With the Force.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if that's been done before. But I feel like the sequel trilogy is just inventing a bunch of new stuff you can do with the Force, and I don't really like it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. You're right, and I remember, I seem to remember at least that being a criticism when those movies came out. Like, oh man, so you can just do anything with the Force now.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So,
And I
okay.
get that's probably what it kind of felt like when the original trilogy came out. But that's just telekinesis and tricks of the mind. And that's pretty much all there is.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. Like then you add in like projection in The Last Jedi, and then both healing and teleportation
Yeah.
in
That's bonkers.
in Rise of Skywalker. So
Yeah. Now, didn't coming off of the Force concept and getting back to some other issues with the movie, wasn't this also the movie where the red-headed guy that was like a leader, a high-up general or something in the evil Empire military?
Snoke?
No. Red-headed guy with light skin. What's that guy's name?
Redhead?
Well, he was the guy that got knocked to the floor and dragged around in that clip we watched from Riff Tracks. In the first of the sequels, in episode 7, he was the guy that was talking in front of the army and giving big speeches and
Oh, that
riling them
guy.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, whatever that guy's name is, he was almost kind of like a Hitler-type character that was genuinely kind of menacing. But as soon as we get into 8, I think it's 8, he's treated like a ridiculous character. He's made fun of. He is outsmarted so easily. He's just a buffoon, you know. And then Snoke, if I'm not mistaken, also in episode 8, was killed.
Yes, he was.
And he was being built up as this awesome enemy, and then we yanked the carpet out from under it. So talk about wasted potential. You got Luke, and then you got Snoke, and I'm just like, what is this movie doing?
And then also that redhead guy. I can't believe I can't remember his name, but
yeah.
But all those guys are just wasted potential, and I guess it kind of helps that not helps. It would make sense because there was also a new director for that movie, so
that's true.
That might have something to do with it. But yeah.
Okay, let's pause right here. All right, is there anything else that you were going to say or that you wanted to say about episode? What was that? 8?
8, yeah.
Yeah, Last Jedi.
I don't like Rey as a protagonist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and not in any of the sequels, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's fine, but I don't I don't remember. And again, my memories are hazy. It's been a long time since I've watched these. I've just not felt pulled back to Star Wars. So I just don't remember her being taken in an interesting direction. Oh, wasn't it in the episode 7 that they started hinting that her parentage might be significant, and then one more thing that was yanked out from under her in episode 8 was "You're nobody." It was a dude with dark hair, and talking in this thing. He had this thing covering his face. What's the main? It's Kylo Ren? No,
Kylo Ren.
That's the villain, right? The young villain with the long dark hair.
Long dark hair.
Nephew of Darth Vader or whatever he is.
Yeah, he.
Grandson.
Let me see.
I think Darth Vader's his grandpa.
So he's the son of Han Solo and Leia. Leia is the daughter of Darth Vader.
So that makes him, grandson. So, but he said to Rey that, like, you're nobody. You're not from anybody special. You're just, and that was kind of like the reveal, or like I feel like that was another thing that was like, what you thought we were building toward, we are not. Where you thought we are going, we're swerving the other direction.
Yeah, that just, I don't remember that, but if that was in there, then that's just wasted potential.
Yeah,
because, and then they completely go back on that in Rise of Skywalker.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
It's messy.
So yeah, I feel like that. Yeah, that's where I'm at on that one. I mean, it still has some modern filmmaking stuff that I appreciate.
Like the only thing good about these are like the fight scenes. Mm-hmm. And there was one. Oh yeah, There's one thing that also kind of frustrates me. After Snoke is killed, we do get this cool scene where Rey and Kylo Ren are fighting side by side against all the royal guards. But then they go right back against each other.
Yeah.
Which was disappointing.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. That was my number, 5? Or 4, or where are we at?
5.
Okay.
We're on 4 now.
All right.
So, oh boy. What's going to be your ranking? Actually, I'm not sure I'm going to be... there's one more. There's one other thing I'd be disappointed with.
I'm not even sure if I haven't mentioned Return of the Jedi, so I haven't mentioned...
You have.
Sorry, I haven't mentioned Empire Strikes Back, which is 4.
That's your 4?
No. I'm trying to figure out what I have left.
Okay.
I haven't mentioned Episode 3 either. So 3... Oh, no. New Hope is 4.
Yeah. 3, 5...
3, 5...
7 and 9.
7 and 9. Okay. All right. All right. So I think next I would say, oh man, I think next I would say 5. Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back? Okay.
Now, many Star Wars fans would say that this is their favorite Star Wars movie. Certainly of the original trilogy, I think most fans I've talked to would say that Empire Strikes Back is their favorite. And I get that.
Higher on your list than the other 2, which you ranked lower.
That's true. That's true. So I guess I'm saying the same thing. That of the original trilogy, it is my favorite of them. It's just got a lot of great stuff going on. A lot of great like robots and the walkers, and some really great lightsaber stuff for what it is. A great revelation at the end that has some drama to it, even though we know it's coming because most of us grew up knowing that Darth Vader is Luke's dad.
But I can just imagine it's probably one of the first like big reveals in all of cinema.
That's a really good point. I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, I think you're right. Well, especially since there hadn't really been, that I can recall, a serialized saga like this that was really taken seriously. I mean, I guess there were the serials of the 40s or whatever they were. But I don't know that those were big budget movies or big budget productions of their day.
There was the 1960s Batman series.
Well, that was one movie that came after it was a successful TV show. Anyway, so yeah, there's some neat stuff going on with the Force as he's training with Yoda. It's just an overall solid Star Wars movie that I think is certainly not going to be the first one by any means that I would go to, but. Yeah, I'm comfortable putting that at number 4. How do you feel about that choice?
Well, considering your rankings so far, yeah, that's fine, I think. I would think it's a very solid entry into Star Wars. Probably better than A New Hope. I don't know how much better the lightsabers are, because once again, I haven't watched it in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they did.
Go ahead.
I remember you telling me one time that they use the lightsaber effect differently after the 4th one. I feel like
maybe they changed techniques.
They might have changed the technique of how to make how to visualize the lightsaber.
I think so. Well, I think in the first one it was all done on set. I mean, the special editions they used post-production, but I think in the original 77 production of Star Wars, it was all done on set, and they had basically these reflective rods they were holding that then they would have guys off from the camera shining light in a certain way so that it would catch the light and reflect it.
Yeah.
But it couldn't always catch the angle right, which is why in the original, sometimes in very brief instances, the blades would kind of disappear and you'd see the rod just very briefly. So they added the glowy, effect in post-production for the special editions. I thought it was starting with episode 5 that they started changing the way, not with episode 6.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I thought they started
Okay.
the technique in
Yes.
episode 5.
Yes.
A different technique.
Yeah, I think rotoscope is what it was called, but I could be wrong.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, it's a bit of weird film history stuff.
If I get into film, I don't think I'm ever going to use it.
Probably not, but it might be good to know about because I would imagine that the concept, there could be like some modernized versions of it, or it could bring to mind some ideas of how you could accomplish certain things in different ways today. Anyway, okay, so that was my number 4.
Yep. All right, top 3.
I know this is tricky.
Can't believe you're putting Rise of Skywalker in your top 3. That's insane.
Okay,
If it goes number 1,
I
I
think-
will actually go upstairs and jump out the window.
can we just focus here? All right, so I
But
got
I'm just saying.
here's what I'll say is that my next 2 are really close. It's really close. My number 1, it's like now I know what my number 1 is, but my next 2 are really stinking close, and I'm not sure exactly how to do it. And this is based on foggy memories. The last time I saw one of these, it was a long time ago. The other one is more clear in my mind. I just saw it a greater number of times than I saw the other one. So I think I'm just going to, for now, not having watched them both recently back to back, go with the one that I remember more clearly and remember thinking to myself, this is my kind of Star Wars movie. And that is... Actually, okay, no. So for now, I'm not going to mention the one that I've seen most frequently, and because that's my number 2 that I'm thinking right now. So rather the other one. Careful, you're bumping the microphone here. So the one that is kind of tied with my number 2 in my mind, but I haven't
tie it.
But I haven't seen it as much. See, we cut out my mistake, and so you're at least going to know what my number 1 is now. But coming in at number 3 is episode 7.
Okay. Wow, okay.
So you know where this is going now. Yeah.
How could you do that?
Just wait. So yeah, episode 7. Let's talk about. The reason it's so high on my list, so close to that number 1 spot, is largely because of modern filmmaking. I just loved seeing. There were things about some of the explosions that just looked more real and practical and. Like I remember the smoke clouds having like a blackness to them that suggested like there was oil involved in the fire. There was just something, and shrapnel. When things would explode, there was shrapnel. There was just all kinds of modern production that was given to this, and a lot of it practical that had not been in the prequel movies. And so on a production level, I so appreciated how grounded and more real and present the world of Star Wars felt in episode 7. And that still stands out to me. Of course, it stands out as well in episode 8, but because of the problems with episode 8, it's not going to be this high and this close to the number 1 spot, as we've already talked about. So episode 7, the reason episode 7 is not higher on my list is because when I saw it, and I still feel this way about it, the plot was playing it so safe. It was like retreading ground that we'd already been on. It was almost A New Hope all over again.
It kind of was. It kind of took the plot of A New Hope. The main character starts out on a desert planet.
Yes, yeah. With questionable parentage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think in my review at that time, I was like, ugh. I so want this franchise to be unshackled from the Skywalkers. And I just want, as soon as I saw the setup for this new trilogy, I was like, this isn't what I want. I want the trilogy after this. Little did I know it was going to become TV shows and all kinds of crap. But
we should do a TV show ranking after you see all.
After I see them all.
Yes,
that's not going to happen.
Oh yeah, you are. It's gonna watch them.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna force you to watch them all.
You're going to have to.
I will. Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess those are my thoughts on episode 7. What are your thoughts? Anything?
Not much to add on to it. Basically, it's the same thing that you were saying. It's basically just a rehashing of A New Hope. All the major plot points in it are basically just A New Hope, but with new characters replacing the legacy characters that are also at the same time still in the movie. Like, yeah, and yeah, like you said, I like how some of the villains were treated seriously. Kylo Ren looked pretty cool before he became a little more pathetic.
Yeah.
In the later installments.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a strong start. He was interesting, even though he was clearly a Darth Vader ripoff. Of course, we understand a little bit more why he's a Darth Vader ripoff, because he is a grandson that idolizes his grandfather.
Yeah.
Did he know he was the grandson of Darth Vader?
Yes, he did know
yes.
that.
We just didn't as an audience yet.
Not at that point.
That's right. Okay.
But yeah. Also, the lightsaber design was really cool.
Oh, you like the hilt, huh? The little blades coming out on the side for Kylo Ren?
Yeah, I really like that.
Okay, that was kind of a controversial choice. I can't remember what I thought about it.
According to like lore stuff or something, apparently his kyber crystal was cracked.
And that's why?
That's why.
That's why it split that way?
I think that's kind of why it splits that way. It's also a little bit more shaky.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And quivery, but like, yeah, anyways, off topic, but I really like the design of his lightsaber. I like the modern effects of Star Wars.
For sure.
All that stuff. The thing I didn't like is, I'm once again going to point it out, while it wasn't as strong in this movie, maybe it was, I don't know. But I still didn't like Rey that much as a protagonist, because, especially when it got to the climax, because we find out she's already force sensitive, and then she just knows how to use that, and then at the end she just knows how to wield a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And completely beats down Kylo Ren at the end, which should not have happened at all.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better to actually maybe even skip a fight with Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
And save that for a later sequel.
Boy. And didn't we get in episode 7, what was the name of John Boyega's character?
Who?
The black guy who wielded a lightsaber briefly.
Oh, Finn.
Finn, thank you. He was the stormtrooper.
Yes, he was a stormtrooper.
Didn't he briefly wield the lightsaber in episode 7?
He did, yeah.
That's another thing that, like, Last Jedi was just like, never mind that dude. And I don't know if it's confirmed, but there's speculation that basically his part was reduced in its prominence because of like kind of racist tendencies in China, which was going to be a major market for the movie, and so they didn't want it to lean so heavily on a black actor, which is man, if there's truth to that, and I would believe there is, not that Disney is philosophically bowing to China, but rather that they're just bowing commercially, to China. If that's the case, that I have no idea if that's true or how much weight there is to that, but I do feel, regardless of what the reason is, that like what they set up for Finn in that first movie was never made good on in episode 8 or 9. And we didn't touch on that in 8, but it just occurred to me now, so I wanted to mention that.
Yeah. So the characters were fine, I think. Nothing insanely as entertaining except for Poe. I think he was kind of fun.
Who was Poe again?
Poe, pilot guy.
Oh, the new Han Solo
guy
who played Grand Mutant in the X-Men movies, Apocalypse.
Oh, I didn't know that, but I don't really care.
Oh, okay.
So, I thought he was like.
And he was Moon Knight, right, in the Marvel movies?
Oh, he might have been actually.
What's the actor's name? I can't remember his name. Dang it.
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, I think we're talking about the same guy.
But anyways, so I thought he was better. Than I think he was a standout for me, and even then,
yeah.
He was still fine.
Well, he's a great actor. He just was really underutilized in that trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
All right. Have we covered episode 7 then?
Yeah, I think we've covered episode 7.
All right. So if you've been keeping track at home, Asher already knows my number 1. So by saying my number 2, you're going to know what my number 1 is. So I'll just kind of share them both at once, but then we'll talk about my number 2 for a while before getting to my number 1, okay?
Yeah, share number 1 first, actually.
Okay, all right,
That's
sure.
what people anticipate.
Yeah, sure. So my number 1 is The Rise of Skywalker. That's the last one, right?
That's the 9th one.
9th one. Yeah, that's my number 1. Oh, no. So now...
No!
Now you have to go upstairs and jump out the window.
All right, be right back.
Okay, wait. Do that after we record.
Okay.
So
Why would you do that?
I know. Let's talk about my number 2.
All right, Revenge of the Sith.
Episode 3. Yes.
Revenge of the Sith. Yeah.
Now, in the making of, George Lucas talked about, and he was kind of like vague about it, but kind of being clever at the same time. And he referred more than once to a guest director that came in to help with that project. I don't know if this guest director did certain scenes or was hands-on with a lot of it or what his, role was, consultation, whatever. But that guest director was Steven Spielberg. And that made sense of that movie to me after I heard that, because it just struck me of those the prequel trilogies as a clearly stronger film than the first two. It just dramatically was stronger. I think that they were already in a bad place to try and win me over dramatically with Anakin and to get me to buy into his character and his arc and stuff. But I think the third one made pretty good of a bad situation in trying to do that. I mean, there's no getting past the difficult no.
Oh, yeah. That has been memed so many times.
Yeah, there's no getting past that. But the dark journey that Anakin goes on, it made me think that, like, okay, maybe I can see some of why George Lucas hired Hayden Christensen, because he has or at least had at that time, a weird darkness to him that reminds me a little bit of Crispin Glover, who played George McFly in the Back to the Future movies. Mm-hmm. And he's done some other kind of creepy guy type roles. And I think Hayden Christensen is good as creepy guy, It was hard for him to sell me as nice guy that a woman would fall in love with. Mm-hmm. But I could get to him being like creepy guy. And he was, so there was things about him that were working better as Anakin in that movie, certainly for me, than the other one. But I think it was just the nature of the story. It was finally going darker. It was PG-13, which I think was the first PG-13 in the franchise, and so the violence was amped up a bit.
Just a bit, and I think only at the end.
Yes, yeah, because of by nature of what happens to Anakin, But it just goes to these much darker places. I mean, the Emperor, as he becomes really in that movie, is really this dark, sadistic wizard, basically. And we really and we see him fully enter into that, and just kind of like the physical and personal monstrosity he becomes. And the performance there by Ian McKellen. Is that the name?
I don't know.
Ian Holm? It's Ian something, I'm pretty sure. McDermott. Ian McDermott, maybe.
I don't know.
Carrie Fisher, dang it.
Carrie Fisher as Darth Sidious.
Yeah, that's an in-joke for people that have listened to the podcast for a while, because I couldn't remember her name once, and I got called on it by somebody like, how could you forget the name of our beloved princess, the actress who played our beloved princess? And I was like, crap, I'm never going to live that down. And so now whenever I can't remember an actress name, I say, Carrie Fisher, dang it.
All right, yeah, you heard it here, folks. Carrie Fisher as the Emperor.
So anyway, yeah, I just appreciated the heaviness that it went to, because those are the kinds of stories. I'm not saying that's intrinsically better. It's just about my preferences. I want a story that has dramatic weight and heavy dramatic stakes that are very personal for the main characters. And this was about as personal and heavy and emotional, I think, as the series had been at that point. It had lots of great Jedi lightsabery type of action. I mean,
Oh yeah, like it had the most duels.
yeah, that movie is a ride, man. That movie is a ride.
It opens like the first sequence has a duel in it. Mm-hmm. Then the sequence after that has a duel in it.
Yeah.
Then there's a scene where everyone should be chilling at Coruscant. There's a duel in that.
Yeah, if we succeed in watching these movies over the break, the third one is definitely going to help get me jazzed, I think, and give me some staying power to stick with it.
But then you're going to remember that we're also watching this with the comedy.
Yeah, that's fine. I think my brain will be able to appreciate it on two different levels.
Usually for me, it's only able to appreciate one level. But
That's
if
true.
that's your brain, then...
Well, no. I think it will suck out the dramatic tension. But I think that I'll still appreciate the lightsaber duels. I'll still appreciate the visual storytelling. And I'll at least remember what it was to me. These movies... I would never have any reason to go back to them. Like I said, I'm only watching them to do it with riff tracks. There is just other stuff that is so much more engaging and fits my preferences more than Star Wars, and I don't know if there's ever any going back at this point, Mm-hmm. So even talking about the positive things I have to say about these top two movies, it still doesn't make me feel like, oh, I want to make time anytime soon to watch these. I don't. There's just always something else I'd rather do. So anyway, anything you want to share on episode 3 before we talk about my number 1?
Yeah. The movie is 100% a fun ride, I think. One problem that I think I just have with this movie, one minor problem that I have with it, but other than that, it's really fun, is that I feel like Anakin is a bit too dumb in that movie.
How so? What would be an example of that?
He gets manipulated very easily, very often.
For sure.
Throughout the movie. And I get it. He looks up to Palpatine, but again, he's just manipulated so easily by everything he says.
I wonder if we can get kind of thematic and philosophical, because that's something I like to do in my content. I don't want to give more credit to the writers and their intentions than is actually warranted, but I'm just thinking of it from an audience interpretation standpoint, because we can interpret things however we want, regardless of how they're intended. Do you think that maybe one of the reasons, if not the main reason, that Anakin is so easily manipulated is because he is so led around by his feelings?
Maybe. That could be.
Because, I mean, the clarion call from Hollywood for decades is follow your heart. Mm-hmm. Do what feels right. And here we've got a character who has a very tragic past that really impacted him emotionally, and I think he seems to have been following his emotions ever since, even though a Jedi is not supposed to do that. And of course, that's not to say that the Jedi have the right perspective, because they're all about no love, no emotions, no attachments. That's the Jedi ideal. Yeah. So love for them is actually not a virtue, and it is, theoretically at least, or can be for a given member of the Sith, but what love is to them, and there's a bunch of bad stuff in that. So neither one of them have a good worldview. They need Jesus.
Of course, you're gonna get to that.
Anyway,
great.
But do you think that's just annoying and bad writing, or do you think that we're supposed to come away with that as audience members, that like his problem is he's following his heart too much? What do you think?
I don't know, because for me, when I was watching it, it was just kind of hard for me to see.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's what it was supposed to be, mm-hmm. that people were supposed to see that. Mm-hmm. But now thinking about it, I don't think they could have done maybe a little bit better at showing that Anakin had a tragic past and he's going through emotional stuff.
Yeah.
Like maybe even like some sort of flashback sequence at the beginning of the movie.
Well,
something.
didn't they over the course of the prequel trilogy, like he had the death of his mom.
Yeah.
He was taken away from his mom. That was tragic. He kind of felt like he had to leave his mom. Then he came back, but he was too late to save her. And then I'm trying to remember if that was kind of like echoing in his thoughts or something, and part of why he was like just driven to save Padme and couldn't bear to see her die because. But yeah, I think the pieces are there, but I think you're probably right that they could have made those connections more strong.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I can appreciate what you're talking about there with him feeling too easily manipulated. What else would you say about episode 3?
I think that's it. That's
Okay.
all. That's the only really criticism that I have. The lightsaber duels are some of the best.
Yeah.
Like there are 2 lightsaber duels happening at the same time, and they go for a long time too. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, my number 1 then. The Rise of Skywalker.
No! Why would you do that? Why? How could you be sitting here and saying that right now?
Okay, it's a combination of things. And again, my memory is vague. So this is, I know that I said this list is not based on how I felt about the movies when I watched them. It's based on what would I most likely want to sit down and watch now. This one kind of straddles that a little bit because I would most want to sit down and watch it now because of how I remember feeling about it after I watched it. Again, after we go through the whole process of watching all 9 of these, if that happens, and I'm able to kind of sort through the riff tracks element and sift that out, maybe I'd feel differently. I don't know. But 9, I think that after the mess they made in 8, what the choices they made in 9 were the closest they could come. It was kind of like episode 3 in that there were some real problems with what came before it, but given the hand that they were dealt, the writers and directors made about the best choices they could to give us a real villain that would feel like, oh crap, this is really bad, and make the stakes personal, with Rey being the granddaughter of Palpatine. And so, like, her having to deal with, oh crap, I come from absolute evil incarnate, And I think what went a long way for me was the cinematography and the style, the visual style of the movie, especially when they were presenting Palpatine. He just was freaking creepy. Was so creepy, and I'd never felt creeped out watching a Star Wars movie before, and I was like legitimately like, dude, that is unsettling. There's something unsettling, and I'd never felt that way watching anything Star Wars. Star Wars is so freaking cookie cutter, the same tone, the same vibe, with their classic wipes for scene transitions. Like they are so stuck in a rut, and I have been just wanting for so long. I mean, like, how many Star Wars movies even use something as basic as slow motion? There is hardly any slow motion shots. I can't think of a specific one even at the moment. There's maybe one. They are so rare, even something so basic as slow motion. They are just so. In terms of cinematography, the way the camera is used, the way that storytelling is done, they don't really do flashbacks. They don't really do so many artistic things that are done in other stories. And I feel like Rise of Skywalker started to take some significant steps in saying, hey, we can have a different tone, we can have a different artistic vibe, we can touch on and create some different feelings than Star Wars movies typically do. Instead of just being a jovial, popcorn-munching carnival ride, which so many of Star Wars movies are, and Star Wars stuff is on Disney since then, you know. So I think what it made me feel through the way it told its story. I'm not saying the story can't be picked apart and there aren't problems with the story. I don't even remember the story that well. But for me, it's a lot less about the story itself, and it's more about how the story is told that has an impact on me and how I feel about a movie or a fictional experience. How the story is told. And I like how the story is presented to me in Episode 9 better than any other Star Wars movie. And that's a big part of why it's my number one. All right, let me have it.
All right. So, we're going to start with Darth Sidious.
Who? Oh, yeah, that's the Emperor, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
He is both the best and worst part of this movie. For one, everything you said about him. He looks creepy.
Yeah.
He is creepy.
Yeah.
And then he gains a bunch of power in the end, and he's genuinely threatening. However, the reason for bringing him back, I found really stupid. Because...
Okay, what's the reason for bringing him back? That's what I want to hear. What do you think of as the reason for bringing him back?
Well, they killed off Snoke.
Yes.
Snoke was supposed to be the big bad of the sequel trilogy.
Yes.
But then they killed him off.
Yes.
Kylo Ren, at that point, was too weak to be a big bad for that sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
So they needed someone who was powerful enough to carry the final movie.
Yeah.
To bring it home.
Yeah.
So, of course, the only option they'd really have was to bring back the Emperor.
Yes.
And the problem with that is he's supposed to be dead. He was like, it was like, I don't know, prophesied or something that the chosen one was going to defeat him, and that's what Darth Vader did in Return of the Jedi.
He did, yeah.
He was supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But then here he is, he comes back, and then, of course, Rey of all people, who I've already told you in the previous two sequel movies that I don't like her as a protagonist that much.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course, she's the one that defeats him. It's kind of epic how she defeats him, but I'm just, I don't know, I'm not satisfied enough, I guess.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the ending for the story, and some things just feel incomplete.
Yeah.
Like there was a riot in the writing room or something.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as bad as The Last Jedi.
Okay.
But there are flaws with it. Mm-hmm. And also, I have huge problems with the lightsabers. They nerfed the lightsabers.
Okay, you have to refresh my memory. I don't know what you're talking about.
So it all starts. It's something I forgot to mention with The Force Awakens, but it all starts during the climactic fight at the end there.
Okay.
With Rey giving him a scratch on the face.
Uh-huh.
That's all it was, a scratch on the face.
With a lightsaber.
Yes.
Well, she probably just nicked him, right?
No, it was a full-blown uppercut thing.
Really? Are you sure he didn't just kind of roll with it? Maybe he rolled with it and she nicked him.
No, she didn't just nick him.
Okay. I don't know.
I remember the scene.
All right.
It was like, she swung like this, and there was just a little bleeding cut right there. That's all it was.
All right.
And then there's this opening shot of him just like using the lightsaber as a freaking baseball bat to bring down a guard. It doesn't even chop him in half.
That's probably because he was using force powers. That's how he only got nicked, too. Remember they're adding force powers?
Oh, yeah, force powers. That's another thing. Thank you for that. Force teleportation?
Yeah.
Force healing? What happened in the writing room, you guys?
Actually, force healing, that might have been in the paper and pencil RPG for Star Wars. I had a friend that ran a Star Wars game a couple sessions when I was in college.
Well, I'm sorry, but your friend was unreliable.
Oh, ooh. I don't know. Lucas might have given it the okay or something.
I don't know who Lucas is.
George Lucas.
George Lucas?
Creator of Star Wars.
You could have just said George Lucas, not
sorry.
Lucas.
All right, sorry.
All right, but anyways.
Yeah, I guess we've got a Lucas in our neighborhood. Okay, so
Yeah.
I can see that being confusing.
So yeah, I have problems with this movie. Also, my biggest problem, the biggest problem that I have with this movie, is the duels, which
Okay.
are, when I look back at them, are very unsatisfying.
Yeah, were they more like Return of the Jedi type duels in that they were emotional more than they were spectacular?
No,
No? Okay, then I don't remember.
they're written sloppy.
Okay.
And choreographed sloppy.
Okay.
All that really happens in the final duel, which happens in like the towards the end of the second act, between Kylo Ren and Rey, they're just wildly swinging at each other every few seconds. That's all it really is, and it's disappointing. And then there's a scene where both of them like stop each other's lightsabers with the Force.
Okay.
And there's no reason for that to happen. Like they're trying to make it cool, but like there's no reason for that. But yeah, and then also my biggest issue, story-wise, is actually the whole Rey is the granddaughter of Palpatine thing.
Okay. Why do you not like that?
Well, first of all, it doesn't make sense how Palpatine even has a granddaughter.
Well, do I have to explain to you how that works?
No.
You're 16 now, you know that.
I know. But who would want to do it with that guy? Who would want to do it with Palpatine?
These are good questions. These are good questions.
Like, what happened?
I think some Jedi Sith mind tricks were involved, probably, don't you think?
And then we get back to the...
I'm very attractive.
And then we...
You are very attractive.
And then there's another problem. Once again, at that point, he's supposed to be dead. So Rey isn't even supposed to happen.
Wait a minute. No, I think wasn't it proposed that happened before he died?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't actually remember.
Okay.
I would assume it had the movie happens like the sequel trilogy happens like 30 years later. So
Yeah, but she's the same age as like the grandson of Darth Vader. So if he was making babies the same time that Anakin was, then I can see that being possible.
yeah, but like
That old guy spent a lot of time off screen. We don't know what he was getting up to.
wow, okay.
Anyway.
But yeah, and then I also felt very unsatisfied with the ending where Rey says she's a Skywalker. Also, she makes her own lightsaber at the end out of her staff, which I'm like, how are you even able to do that? You don't know how to make a lightsaber.
Yeah.
But anyways, she's doing all these she's doing all these things, getting a little off topic here, but she's doing all these things that she just somehow knows to do, like force teleportation, force healing, and no other Jedi was able to do that.
Yeah.
And then anyways, back to the ending. She says that she's a Skywalker at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm unsatisfied with it. Because I get it. You don't want to be associated with the Palpatines. Mm-hmm. But why are you associating yourself with the Skywalkers? You're not related to them in any way. That is what should have happened. That should have been the big twist, I feel like. That Kylo Ren and Rey were like related in some way. I think the best way probably like brother and sister or something. And that or maybe even cousins, and Luke had like a secret wife or something. Because that was like a fan fiction or
Oh,
something.
okay.
But like brother siblings or cousins, I
Yeah.
was hoping would happen, but then we get this whole Palpatine's granddaughter thing, and it kind of just messes it up for me.
Yeah.
I didn't really like it that much.
That is an interesting thing that I remember thinking was a little odd when she kind of declared herself a Skywalker. And I wonder, I don't want to delve into a controversial topic needlessly here, but I wonder if there's a similar mindset that inspired that creative choice to the type of mindset we see today where people are saying, I don't feel like I'm this, I'm going to declare myself to be something different, whether that's a different gender or whatever, you know. I just wonder if, because there's a lot of identity stuff going on today where people are kind of wanting to declare for themselves who they are without really appealing to objective reality. And so she's just kind of wanting to, by force of will, because she doesn't like the hand that she was dealt, she wants to declare herself to be something else when, as you observed, and as we as audience members know, there's no reason for her to think that she actually comes from the biological line of Skywalkers. But maybe it could also be that it's more of a philosophical thing where she like sees the idea of a Skywalker not in terms of being part of a family line. And this is, I think, how I interpreted it when I first saw the movie. But seeing it as like the type of person that she wants to be, and that maybe maybe what she is going to be the start of is a new movement of Force users that are not Jedi and are not Sith, but are something else, and they're just called Skywalkers, you know? And I don't know if they will go that direction. I think that could be really cool because honestly, I am ready to get away from the Jedi and the Sith and explore something totally different. I would love for them to jump ahead in the timeline 100 years and see.
Well, their next project is going to be like a Rey solo movie.
I think that's what I heard too, yeah. But what I want is for them to jump ahead 100 years and just really change up the landscape and the feel and do something different, you know? And what would it mean to be a Force user that's operating with a different set of values than either the Sith or the Jedi? You know, I think that could be something interesting to explore. And maybe that group call themselves the Skywalkers. I don't know. But I kind of
want an interesting theory.
Well, I wouldn't call it a theory because it's not that I actually suspect that to be the case. I just kind of wondered if like that's the mindset she's in. Like, you know, I'm starting something new here, and but I don't know. It's something I would love, as I would so many times, to pick the writer's brain about. Like, what do you mean by this? You know, whether they would be honest with their answer or not, I don't know. But well, as we wrap up here, we don't have time to get your whole ranking, but I would love to get your worst and your best.
Okay.
So what would you say is your worst that you would least like to sit down and watch today?
So here's the thing. I don't find any of the Star Wars movies to be like, I can't bear to sit down and watch these.
Okay.
Because if I'm being real honest, in some sort of way, I do kind of like all of them.
Okay.
And I don't think any of them are horrible.
Okay.
I just think some of them are flawed.
Yeah.
So with that being said, the most flawed film, I'll word it that way, is The Last Jedi.
Okay.
And the least flawed, I would go with...
Don't you dare say Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace. Darth Maul for the win. No, it's actually Revenge of the Sith, I think, is my...
Is that the third one, episode 3?
That's episode 3, yeah.
Okay.
That's the least flawed, in my opinion.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll both really enjoy that one.
Yeah, but and then the rest are kind of like Like, but besides the Rise of Skywalker, which is just above, the rest are kind of just mixed, like, highly enjoyable mixed area. But yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for doing this, my boy. It was fun. Love you.
Thank you. Love you.
Talk
I'm
to
going to
you.
go jump out a window now.
For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.